Welcome to Suicide Undone. This is Linda Unalam. I'd like to welcome Lisa Motes today.
I
Lisa is someone who went through a very dark depression and was able to make it through and overcome. And I want to invite Lisa to talk about the strategies that helped her overcome were some of the coping tools that she used. Lisa, thank you very much for joining us.
thank you for having me.
I'd like to hear about your journey of the depression and how you made it through.
I mean, my depression was it was a low grade depression. I think I had it for years and wasn't really aware of what it was. I, like we've talked, I was at the point where I was not going to harm myself, but I didn't care if I didn't wake up in the morning. If I had been in a car accident and died that way, that would have been okay. You know, just this feeling of endless, this is how it's going to be, this is the best it's going to be, this is the best I'm ever going to be. I remember one morning looking, and when I was younger, I was fit, I was pretty vibrant, I did what I wanted to do, and I remember looking in the mirror one morning and wondering, I remember just staring there for the longest time and thinking, where did you go? Like I didn't recognize this person in the mirror anymore.
Were you aware of what factors led you to start to develop this depression?
Yeah, it was choices in my life, in the way that I dealt with things too. It was, a marriage that was difficult, difficult. And a lot of me, I think, thinking that if I was only better, if I only did things better, then things would be okay. There was a level of abuse, emotional abuse coming. I think that my self-esteem going into the marriage was probably not where it should have been, and I accepted things that I probably shouldn't have, you know. Um, it was, I mean, and I'm not saying, oh my gosh, it's all his fault. Not at all. A lot of it was how I dealt with things, and not recognizing just kind of the slow descent that I was going into, I can see it now looking back. I started withdrawing from good friends, I slowly was starting to not engage in things that I normally would have engaged in, and I was starting to sleep more, um, using escape tactics, reading a lot, eating, crappy food. It made me feel good, loved my sons, unconditionally, loved, doing things with them with their school and stuff. So there were always, there were always bright spots, but overall it was, it was a low grade depression that was just consistent.
Spiraling out of control.
Yeah. And that sick feeling of thinking, this is the best there is, this is the best there'll ever be for me, and knowing that that wasn't good enough, but not having any sense, fear, of how to get out of it. I was afraid to leave my marriage. There was social things. No one in my family had divorced. I didn't want to be the one. I didn't want to be the one, the only one in my family that divorced. And it almost made no sense, because not that my parents would have judged me or hated me for that, but in my mind, I didn't want to be the one who made the mistake. I didn't want to be the one who divorced, so I think too, some stubbornness on my part too, kind of I will work through this, and when I wasn't, I wasn't seeing clearly. Um, and
So during
honestly,
this time, you were basically reaching for substances to
yeah.
try to mute the feelings. So you started overeating. Did that get out of control? Did you put on a lot of weight?
Oh
And
yeah,
did that,
I put on 65 pounds, you
wow.
know, over the course of about 4.5 years, 5 years. Um, I kidded myself that I was putting that weight on. I, just kind of thought, no, it's not that big of a deal. And I'd kind of be like, well, I'm 5'9" and 200 pounds. That's not bad, you know. Well, yeah, it kind of is, you know.
And at the same time, did you find yourself morphing into a sedentary lifestyle because you had poor
Yes,
motivation, which is one of the classic symptoms of depression?
yes, yes. I clearly remember one time we had a 3-acre lot, and our mailbox was, I don't know, maybe 700 feet from our house. And honestly, it was getting to the point where walking to the mailbox and back felt a little onerous, you know. Um, it's like, oh, I'll wait until I'm driving by there and I'll stop and get the mail when I drive by, you know. Yeah. So,
Did you seek therapy around this time or at any time?
you know, um, I did. There was one point after my second son was born where I felt like I had a little bit of postpartum depression, and I did. Honestly, I think I kind of, denied that it was really as bad as it was. Um, and I know I will say this too. You have to be careful on who you go to, as a therapist too. You know, because sometimes you can lie to them just as well as you can lie to yourself. And I think that's kind of what I did. I was not very I certainly was not very open to telling anybody what was going on in my marriage. you know it was humiliating for me. you know it was embarrassing. you know some of my close friends, they knew because they saw things. Others wouldn't have known. you know
You're talking specifically about the emotional abuse that you were subjected to.
Yes, yes, yeah.
What form did that emotional abuse take?
There was a lot of control. There was a lot of, um, comments. Oh, do you think you look good in that? You know, um, I remember one that he loved was, I'll give you a compliment when I see something worth complimenting. You know, um,
So all these things really undermine a sense of self-esteem.
yeah, yeah. He would tell me, people look at us and they wonder why I'm with you. You know, um, I mean, there was the and to be, I don't want this to be oh my gosh, he was a bad guy and he ruined my life. I was complicit in allowing this. Do you know what I mean? I was complicit. And also, there was there were times where I became very combative with him, and would go, hey, look in the mirror yourself, buddy. And so I would fight back, but not recognizing I was fighting a battle I couldn't win, no matter what. Whether I accepted it or whether I fought back, I was going to be on the losing end of it, you know. Um, and the energy it took to fight back, you know, was also energy that I wasn't putting into me or to my kids. Does that? Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. I will not sit there and say that he was responsible, for my depression. It was a situation um, that I allowed myself to get in and did not know how to get out. I don't think the answer for me being happy is to say it was all somebody else's fault. Because the reality is how I deal with things. you know I'm always going to have people in my life that are not necessarily good people. um, I have to figure out how I deal with them and keep myself in a good place.
or sometimes the solution is not to keep those people in your life.
That's
Always
what
choose
I've
people
had to
who
learn.
are going
Yeah.
to affirm you
Yeah.
and be a positive influence.
There's I think that, again, I will always be grateful for, I don't regret that time because I can't change it. And I'm grateful for the very hard things that forced me to change things. I've kind of said that, God was throwing little pebbles at me and saying, you need to make some changes. And I wasn't paying attention. So he threw a big fucking rock on me and said, are you paying attention now? And I said, yes, now I'm paying attention.
And what was that rock?
Finding out that my ex was having an affair with my very good friend, who was also my kid's high school counselor.
Wow, how complicated can it be?
It was a complete, the night that I found out, I literally went, okay, it seemed to me that we were actually in a better part of our marriage, and we were actually going to counseling then. And, he was being very attentive. And I remember that night thinking, okay, we're doing better. And then literally 16 hours later, I was out of the house and had moved out. I mean, that's just how fast it went, And I look back at that and I go, oh my God,
He deserted the family?
what's that?
He deserted the family? He just moved?
No, I moved out. I literally left as soon as I had all of the evidence. And the reason I left was that I couldn't stand to be in the house, knowing that, from what I'd found out, knowing how much she had been in my house, and to the extent that she had really been in my life, somehow that house felt like, I equated it to, I said, it felt like a place where I had been raped and I didn't even know it yet, So I moved out very quickly, and I decided that my sons at the time, of course, they were very upset. They had to leave their school, the gossip on that one, that's always a fun one. That's always
It's
enjoyable.
always so difficult when children are involved and when they're impacted with these things.
That's
So
where
such a painful journey for them.
it was very painful. And that was where, for me, the rage came in, the real anger. And I'm going to say, anger has a role, though. Anger's not always bad, because anger was what drove me to make changes. Anger in the beginning is what fueled me to take steps that I needed to take, and early on, I had some people tell me, you're too angry, and they got a very angry response to that too, But I did understand that I have to keep my anger under control. I can't hurt anybody. I can't kill somebody, two in particular that, came to mind at that time. Because in doing so will only hurt my children, will only hurt me, And so now I've got this anger there's got to be something to do with it,
It's all about channeling that anger. And
Yep.
How did you channel it?
My bicycle got a lot of miles put on it, that got a lot of miles put on it. My swimming pool got a lot of laps put in it. It was all things that kind of physically wore me out, physically allowed that anger to come out of my pores, and instead of just coming out of my hands or my mouth, which they wanted to,
So that's
Yeah.
great that you found that adaptive coping strategy.
It was, that those forms of exercise were things that got me out of my head, you know, got it where I was focusing. I had to focus on what the task at hand, the riding the bicycle, the swimming, the TRX or the motorcycle riding that I got back into after. I had to focus on the task at hand. My mind didn't have the energy or the bandwidth to focus on that and to spiral down going, oh my God, I want to kill somebody, or oh my God, I'm just so, I'm feeling so bad for myself. For my mind, they could not exist together at the same, they couldn't share the same space. So to get, as I mentioned before, in the motorcycle world, they call it wind therapy and blowing off the gremlins. And there really is something to that, where when you're riding your motorcycle or your bicycle, you have to focus on the road, on the people around you, on the road ahead of you, which I think is really, says a lot when you say you really have to focus on the road ahead of you. You can't you're not paying attention to behind, and with both of those, with the motorcycles and the bicycle, all of your senses are engaged. The sense, the feeling the bike, the movement, the feeling the wind in your face, the sun,
That's called
the
wind
music that we
therapy.
have playing. What's that?
That's called wind therapy.
Wind therapy, yeah. And in the motorcycle world, they call it blowing the gremlins off. And that's something that happens once you kind of get going and you do get in that zone and you can't think of all the negative things and the dark thoughts. That's where the gremlins are blown off. And for that while, you are just yourself,
And
And
it sounds to me that you started taking control back in
yeah,
your life.
yeah,
Whereas your husband was controlling before,
right.
and maybe that caused some feelings of powerlessness. It took this life event for you to re-experience your sense of empowerment.
I think, yes, I think that I'd given up a lot, and to accommodate and to try to have, the look of the perfect family, which of course was just, such a veneer. I mean, I was 65 pounds heavier. I gained all that weight, through coping mechanisms. I was not happy. Close friends of mine knew that I wasn't, I guarded a lot of what was going on in my life. Some people knew more than what I thought they knew, but to get out and to finally, to go, okay, I'm the only one now responsible for my feelings. I'm the only one. I resist going, oh, I was married to a narcissist and that was all the problem, because it wasn't, because there's a reason I married a narcissist. There's adaptive behaviors that I used that were not making me, the McDonald's cheeseburger. I was actually thinking about this. I cannot remember the last time I had McDonald's. I really can't, I had it almost daily there. There was one by my house. It was, I was a daily fixture there, and I denied what I was putting in my body was, I denied that, I did not acknowledge that what I was putting in my body was making things worse,
So at what point did the diet change? You mentioned about the physical exercise of bicycle riding.
Mhm.
Did the diet start to change at
Yeah.
around the same time?
Yeah. I mean, the first few weeks or month or two after leaving, some of it, I lost some weight just because I couldn't eat, because I was so upset, but then I started, I liked that feeling of suddenly going, well, wait, I've lost a couple pounds here. But then it was, okay, if I'm going to go ride 15 miles on my bike, a cheeseburger's not going to help me, and if I'm going to go through this, I've set a goal now. I'm going to ride the 20 miles, I don't want to undo it I don't want to undo a 400 calorie burn by putting a $1,300 calorie cheeseburger on top of it, So then it was kind of like, okay. And my appetite, when I was exercising, my appetite decreased, I actually started, for me at that time, I started doing a lot of protein shakes, and blending vegetables and fruits in them. And that was to get the nutrients in without having to eat a lot, and that was, again, at that time, because emotionally I was having a hard time eating too, but so I was like, well, now I need to get the nutrition in. And so it kind of built on itself because all of it felt good,
You started a positive momentum,
Yeah,
which kind of broke that whole cycle of negativity.
right. And after probably a month without a cheeseburger, or, the fries, then having one didn't taste quite as good, you know. My body started to crave the other things that I had started putting in it, which that I find your body is amazing on. And it takes a while, but your body starts to crave what you give it, you know. It starts to crave what you give it. It takes a while, but I did start to notice that. And again, all of that was making me feel better, that I started to see myself in the mirror again. I started to see who I had been. One of my dearest friends in the world sent me a necklace that she had engraved, and it said, "Welcome back, friend."
Wow.
And that was her noting that, I'd known her since college. So she, knew my whole story. And she said, "I feel like I'm getting my old friend back again."
Now, you have mentioned that there was that particular look in your eyes before.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you saw what I had posted in that group. And I got to tell you, posting those first pictures, it's painful for me to do. And, because I look and I see not only was I overweight and unhealthy, the look in my eyes in those pictures, the smile in the pictures it only goes up to here. The smile doesn't go up to the eyes,
The eyes are the window to the soul, of course.
They are. And that was part of the reason that I even wrote that, was that looking and seeing the difference, not only just physically, like weight wise, or that I toned up, or that, my eyes looked more alive, and they were getting more alive, especially through that first 2 years, there was, that was huge to me. And, part of me now goes, I do look back and I go, I have to learn how to love that person too, the one that I don't recognize anymore. I have to realize that person got me through some rough times, She took it on the chin doing it, but she got me through too, I so
that was really a process of embracing yourself unconditionally.
That's a hard one.
Loving yourself unconditionally.
And that's a hard one. That's a hard one,
For a lot of people.
Yeah, I have to look back and say, okay, that person was still a good mom, still loved her kids, did everything for my kids, I still, I just I wasn't functioning at my best self. And I was probably in a situation where I couldn't, and so I think anyone, and obviously, my story will be different than others, but I think that looking at where you're at and why you're there, and is it okay for you to be there, or there are changes you can make, the hard changes that you can make that will start the process of getting, into a better place.
Yeah. And I came across the gem of a quote that I think it reminds me of what you're talking about. Positive thinking is not only about expecting the best to happen, but is also about accepting whatever happens is for the best.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So that there's the idea that even we have negative experiences, we can always transform those to better our lives and to become the best version of ourselves.
I mentioned to you earlier that I said that I felt like God was, wanting me to make some changes, and he was throwing little pebbles at me and I was ignoring him. And so he threw the big fucking rock on me and said, "Are you paying attention now?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm paying attention." And you, um, it's about, honestly, I will look at what happened, and the day that I left that was one of the best things that could have happened to me.
That was a gift that you gave yourself?
It was a gift. Yeah, it was a very difficult gift. Um, I, um, I say it's by the grace of God that God did that. That God said, "You know what? I'm going to give you this really rough time, and you go with it, and you're going to figure something else out. That's going to be better."
Now, tell me about the role of friends. What role did they play in helping you recover from this very terrible experience?
The friends. I found out who my real friends were. Some of them were people I did not expect them to be. You know, and some of my what I considered good friends at that time kind of disappeared.
Well,
That's okay.
they were the friends, right?
Right. But there were people that, that really just stood up, and they listened to me. They let me be angry, but they also they just didn't tell me everything you're doing is great. They were the ones who told me, "By the way, you're fucking up right now." And excuse my language, but that was literally, kind of, how I don't even want to say brutal, but how frank they would be, how honest they were being with me.
That's the proverbial keeping it real with you.
They kept it real, sometimes when I didn't want them to, but they did, and they, like I said, they listened. They were supportive, but they were also not going to sit back and let me just stew in something. They were the ones that were like, "Come on, we're getting out. Come on, we're going to go do this." They were the ones who checked in. And I'm tearing up because I will forever be grateful for that. Because again, that was one of those gifts, the unexpected gift, was realizing there are angels in your life that you may not even know that they were an angel. And so again, I kind of look and I go, the unexpected gifts of some of this. And not that this was some easy road, and not that I still wasn't spending the first 2 years, nights I still cried myself to sleep, nights that I, dealing with my sons and, trying to be, I wanted to show them, I wanted to model resilience to them. That became my goal. Is I thought, I can't protect them from life. I can't protect them from their family blowing up. I can't protect them from, some of the ugly things that, they had to leave their school because of this, and I couldn't protect them. But I thought, at least maybe I can show them resilience. Maybe I can show them that you can make something better.
That's a wonderful example.
Yeah.
The kids are always watching us.
They're always watching. And, it was, I'm grateful to them because, they were my lifeline too. So many lifelines, and I am far from perfect on this, but it was such a journey. It was such a journey. And I think the keys the key takeaways I learned was that physically I have to move. I had a cold this last week and I was traveling, so I've been pretty low on the physical end of things, and I'm feeling it. Like, I'm going to be in my pool later on today because I have to do that. Oh, my light went out here. And I'm
How often do you exercise these days?
usually on a good week, 5 days a week. I try to hit 30 minutes at least. That's my minimum. But 5 to 6 days. with just 30 minutes of either swimming or riding the bike, other days I'll go an hour, 2 hours, if I feel like it. But I try to stay moving. That is really what helps keep my mood in a better place. It gives me
There's
energy.
so much evidence about the endorphins really helping. They're the natural antidepressant.
Right. And I think it's not, again, for me, it's the type of exercise, especially for the mood. I need the exercise that takes me out of my head. I have an indoor treadmill that I love, that thing, but I don't like it. I don't use it if I feel like I'm needing something for mental help, because I can get on that treadmill and I can go into dark places. If I'm actually on the bike, then I can't do that. So I would tell people, be careful, or look and see what really does help you mentally more. What exercises help you mentally,
To what extent does the depression affect you today?
I'm always going to have to be aware of it. I'm always going to have to be aware that I could be prone to it. I think that there's two things. I mean, one of them is I can look back and be very happy about the journey the last 6 years, so I'm aware of, I'm becoming more and more aware of when I'm using behaviors that are not serving me. They're not serving my mental health. I think the biggest thing is knowing that everything is temporary. It changes. I have the power, if I'm in a feel like I'm in a slump or not feeling as good, because it's going to happen. Life isn't going to be 100% happy all the time at all. But to remember that I have the power to change it. I've done it before. I can continue to do it, and I will probably have to. My life will now be a series of restarts all the time.
That's a wonderful way of looking at life.
Yeah, get back on it, do it again, go do it again, go do it again. And I will probably be on my deathbed wondering, I guess I could have, I'm sure I'll be on my deathbed going, gosh, maybe I should do another meditation. Maybe that'll make me feel better. I'm never going to be there. There is no there for me. There is no, now I've reached the perfect spot and I'm going to stay there. It doesn't exist for me, at least.
It's a process. To what extent did meditation help you?
A lot. I'm working on better, like, daytime meditation. I did sleep meditations to go to sleep to. I used those almost relentlessly, for the first few years. They shut my
How do
mind
you
down.
find those meditations? I'm sure there's a lot of people that struggle with the same issue of insomnia.
You know what? Yelp, or not Yelp, I'm sorry, YouTube has my particular favorite. His name is John Moyer on it, and I love his sleep meditations. They're 8 hours. You put them on your phone, put your phone on the charger, put them on the phone, and you go to sleep listening to it, and you'll wake up, And what I found was I woke up in a little bit better frame of mind. There was something that I was hearing, even when I was asleep, that was lifting. And you can find you could find a sleep meditation for any issue you're having. I think, for weight loss, for exercise more, for letting go, for finding, for overcoming depression. I mean, you can go on and find, the YouTube ones are free. Audible has some really good ones too. They have whole series of them, and they're sleep meditations, And then I started following with morning meditations, which are like 20-minute guided morning meditations that you do first thing in the morning to kind of try to set the tone for your day.
That sounds like a wonderful way to start.
It is. And, and I admit that there are days where my mind is just like, no, I can't do this today. I'm sorry. I'm too distracted. I can't do it, So I'm still working on getting my head where I can do it more often, So again, I'm a work in progress. I'm a work in progress, Linda. I am.
But all of us, and I think the name of the game is just to keep going and always have that motivation to improve.
If someone's feeling that depression, I think if I could go back and tell myself, anything, it would be take one step, pick one thing, one thing, just one to, you know, to start in a right direction. And even if it doesn't feel good, commit to doing it for 2 weeks, something short, doesn't even have to be a major one, but commit to it. If it's 15 minutes of moving a day, commit to that for 2 weeks,
Yeah, or sometimes even something like decluttering a house. I saw an
Exactly.
article recently about how the environment is so important in how we feel. When we
Isn't it?
walk into a cluttered space, that's environmental therapy.
Yeah.
When we walk into a cluttered space, for real, it's going to impact our mood. And even if it seems overwhelming to address a cluttered house, you could start one drawer at a time.
Yep.
It's sort of like the analogy I always use is like painting a house. It could
Right.
seem enormous task, like where do we begin? But if you start with one wall of the house at a time,
Yep.
it's small, it's manageable, and before you know it, you make progress. It's the same thing with decluttering. It's the same thing with weight loss or any other challenge that you might be facing.
I'm glad you mentioned that about the decluttering, because that's something in my life that, not decluttering, I don't have a lot of clutter, but for a while I used, as I lost weight, as I was feeling better, I got a lot of fun out of buying new clothes, and I had a little bit too much fun with that, and
There's nothing like retail therapy.
retail therapy was great. And I'm not going to apologize for it. It was fun. It had its purpose until it didn't, and then it started being, this isn't so much fun. And I know I'm getting a little hit from this. I'm getting a little endorphin hit, from bringing this home. And I kind of started going, this is getting a little bit ridiculous. And so then as things have progressed, it became, what's bringing joy in my life? What in my house is bringing me joy and what isn't? And so I kind of, I've gone through many, many things, and it's been hard because I'll look and I'll go, but this is really nice. And, this is an expensive pair of boots, and yeah, they've been sitting in my closet for a year and they haven't been used, but they're really nice. And so a friend of mine, kind of helped me with the idea of going, you know what, I'll get rid of it. And I'm going to say a prayer to it. I will say a prayer over the stuff I'm getting rid of, going, you know what, now this will go and bring joy to somebody else's life. It's going to find a new home, a new purpose, and it will now bring joy to somebody else, through me. And
That's
that's
a wonderful
easier.
way of looking at it. We
Yeah.
have on Facebook, we have in our local community, it's a page called Give Freely.
Right.
And so many of us have things that we just will never use ever again.
Right.
So really you have to question, what's the purpose of having it when you could donate it to someone that will enjoy it?
Right.
And so that's a way of paying happiness forward.
I had lost, during this whole process, a friend of mine gave me a bracelet. It was a gold bracelet that said faith and believe, and I loved that, and somewhere it fell off my wrist and I lost it, and I felt so bad. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to imagine somebody who really needs this now going along the street and finding it. And that those words will mean something to them, where I don't need those words on my wrist anymore. And maybe they did, and so that, and for all I know, it's buried in some dirt somewhere. But in my mind, it helped somebody else that day, And so, yeah, so getting rid of things, isn't that all about kind of what we're talking about, I think, is, changing and getting rid of aspects in your life, or getting, making changes, and letting things go.
Yeah, things that don't any longer work. It's
Yeah.
time to let them go.
Yeah. But that, that task of when I first went through all my clothes, it was easy the first time. The third run that I went through, because that's how I did it, was I was like, okay, I'll do one run and then I'll wait a few days and I'll go through again. The last one was kind of like, but I really like this, you know? And I just told myself, I'm like, okay, you're going to grab a handful of clothes and you get to keep 50% of them. You have to pick, out of this group, you have to pick the half of them that you really like the most, and the rest have to go. But the amazing thing is now that they're gone, I don't even think about them.
Yeah. I think of Denzel Washington's classic question. Have you ever seen a hearse pull a U-Haul? The
Yeah,
point being that we can't ever take any of the stuff with us. So rather than focus on material comfort, I think it could be way more enriching in life to think about experiences, really special experiences, whether it
oh,
could be a nature walk. Of course, vacations are wonderful, but it doesn't have to even be a vacation. It could just be a special day trip somewhere.
exactly. I one moment that I remember, and I will always think, this woman has no idea, have never have any idea of the impact she had. I was on the river in a kayak with some friends, and I saw this woman probably in her 60s, and she looked so strong and so fit, and she was on this paddleboard, you know, and she went paddling by us, and I just was like, wow, I want to do that, I want to do that. And so within a few weeks, I had taken paddleboard lessons, and I learned how to paddleboard. And I've paddleboarded in Florida on the ocean. I've whitewater paddleboard now, which I will never do again, but I did it once. I, paddleboarded down rivers. I own 3 paddleboards now. And all because of this one woman who will never know, who she will never ever know, you know the impact she had on my life, which I kind of think is kind of cool.
Yeah, and we're constantly inspiring people, sometimes without even knowing it. I'm
Right.
thinking of Ernestine right now, the world's oldest weightlifter. She's a
Yes.
woman.
Yes.
And what remarkable inspiration she's been to so many people,
Right.
because she's the epitome of health when you look at her. And it could be so different. And what I love is sometimes uh, there'll be a picture of her, and juxtaposed will be a picture of a woman another age who could be, I'm sorry, the same age. And one is overweight, out of shape, her health is a wreck. But
Right.
what's the difference? I mean, yes, there's genetics, but that key determinant is the desire, the motivation to really take charge and control the situation and optimize health.
I I think I think they're all so tied. All of that is, kind of what we've been talking about. Everything is, we're trying to do things that build on each other, that keep the ball going the right direction and build. And there's so many aspects to mental health and to depression. It's not just, it's my depression was not caused by just one thing. It's not fixed by just one thing either. You know, um,
Therapy comes in multiple forms,
it
and
does.
it could be tailor made for a specific, each person has things that are therapeutic for them,
Right.
whether it's ballroom dancing or figure skating or writing poetry or acting. It could be, everyone has their different talents.
Right.
And when you reach in and really discover who you are as a person and what kind of floats your boat,
I,
you could tailor make your therapy.
I think it's almost kind of, finding that one thing, or recognizing that one thing, and just committing to do it just for a small amount of time, just to start, just to commit to the start to it. That's I think that's huge, and not going, okay, I'm going to commit to losing 65 pounds. I'm going to commit to being healthy and eating healthy this week and exercising at least twice this week, something that you can attain too. I didn't go in, when I started this, I didn't go in going, I'm going to lose 65 pounds. It came off, through other things. And obviously, yes, as I lost it and I felt better and I felt I looked better, that motivated me to do more, but that wasn't my goal. I think when I first lost like 30 pounds, I was like, oh, I'm good, and then I was kind of like, well, you can do a little more, and so it wasn't this drive to do it. It was losing the weight was also part of the whole process, and finding out, and feeling healthy. And now I'm like, now I don't want to lose any more weight. I want to build muscle. I want to be healthier, but my goal is to not shed any more pounds, but I see like on the Facebook groups, the exercise and the bodybuilding, I look at,
Yes, it's
oh my God,
wonderful.
I want to be her. I look and I go, wow, I thought I was doing good. And now I see this woman, who's my age and she's got more muscle than me. I think, there's a competitive side too that is.
But there's so many sources of inspiration, and this is what keeps us going.
Oh, and
We all need that little push to keep, raising the bar a little higher each time.
and go through your social media pages and get rid of the sites that are full of negativity. I really just stuck to that now this last 2 years because, I found some groups that were supposed to be fun and there's a lot of bitching and a lot of negativity in them. And I realized I don't need to wake up or I don't need to open up my phone and have a face full of negative in me, in front of me. And so I cut, I cut everyone that, was where there was a lot of negativity allowed in the groups, and that
And I think there should be a distinction. Everyone needs to vent, but I think once that venting is done, because of course, as a social worker, I'm always going to encourage people to express their feelings, but you express it and then you let it go. You don't stay stuck in it. And I think that that's what we're talking about, that
yeah,
they're in the same way that some people bring out positive aspects, right. Other people they get something out of it. There's a secondary benefit from the negativity.
I have Crohn's disease and I've had it for 20 years. And there's a couple of, social media groups for Crohn's. And I actually opted out of them because it wasn't negative, but every story was the worst of the worst. And I feel bad today and I feel this today. And, I'm having pain here and having this. And for me to look at it, that mindset, I don't want to say it was mindset, but to see those posts was making me go, oh gosh, do I feel that today? And I decided a long time ago, even before all of my changes I made, that I wasn't going to let Crohn's define my life, and that I wanted to be surprised every time I have a Crohn's flare. I want to be surprised that I do and go, oh my God, I have a Crohn's flare again. How did that happen? Because I don't want to be looking for it. I don't want, because if I look for it, I'm going to find it,
Right. We have to somehow divert our attention, and there's so many other joyful things to be in tune with.
Right. What you were saying about you can't take it with you when you go, though. My sister pointed out to me all of my kayaks and paddle boards and motorcycles and bicycles. And she said that to me. And I said, I know, but but I want my friends to ride them all in my funeral procession. I said, so they're going to make a wonderful funeral procession. Because I drew the line at saying, I'm not getting rid of those, and mainly because those are the things I look at that keep me active or keep me moving. Those are very positive for me.
Those are the coping tools for you.
Those are the coping tools for me. Yeah. And so you seem very positive. You seem like you're a very, obviously, I'm going to guess that you've probably had difficulty like all of us have. you know. So what
And
was your best? What was the best tool you had?
well, yeah, I work in a very depressing environment, which is jail setting,
Ooh,
and we see the worst of the worst in terms of human misery there. I also worked as a medical social worker for 5 years, and I found that that was way more difficult for me because it was it had a different tone to it. Like people who are terminal will never recover from that,
right,
whereas in the field of psychiatry, you can have that impact and you can steer it in a positive direction to have a positive impact. And so that's what keeps me going. When I see a person go from doom and gloom, and we've gone through the process together and their life is better, it's a wonderful high. At least it is for me.
yeah.
And so that's what keeps me going.
So you have a gift then of helping pull other people through.
That's what I love to do. Yes.
That's wonderful. You know, there's I think um, so many of us have many people have that and they don't know it. You know that somebody who might be in a depression now may find that they're going to be an inspiration to somebody else soon, or that they already are. You know, and they're not.
Yeah. And if in one of my podcasts, I was talking about the wonderful author, um, uh, J.K. Rowling,
Mhm.
who was suicidal at one point, and she discovered this gift that she had, and a tremendous success. I
Right,
think she didn't couldn't have imagined it when she was in the depths of her depression.
right.
And so the name of the game is to just keep going and to persevere and to never give up. And you have definitely been an inspiration today
Thank you.
as someone who's been able to transform a very negative experience. It could have been very easy to give up
Yeah.
and to even go down a very dark path. I see it all the time. Yes, I work in jail. People
Mhm.
that don't make good decisions who, in that instant, decide to give in to the dark
Mhm.
feelings and the dark forces. So, but we always have that choice every single day. And so we know that we are always going to choose light over dark.
Well, and
And
even like in talking to you today, I mean, you know, this morning I woke up with allergies, you know, I got to exercise, I got a lot I got to do, you know, and now I'm feeling better after talking to you.
oh, that's a gift to me. Thank you.
No, it is because that's where you know, it's not, I think that it's again, it's the people around you, it's the people who are positive or the people who, you know, and the people who are, you know, going to tell you where you're screwing up too, you know. You know, the people who will hurt you in order to help you, you know, because that's sometimes what it felt like for me is people who would hurt me in order to help me, you know.
But that's what coaches do, right?
Yeah,
Because if they don't bring out the awareness
right.
to the things that have to be improved, of course, everyone loves to hear you're doing great, but it's not really a benefit when it's not truthful.
I've always joked that I would be my own worst counselor because it would be me going, you know, counselor, me, I want to, you know, I basically want to go kill this person. And counselor me goes, I think that's an excellent idea, you know. And so that's why I need the outside voices and not just mine, because my own voices, you know, might put me down a darker path, you know, if I solely listen to those.
And this is why therapy and counseling is so vital often, because we get stuck in a particular type of thought,
Right,
and having a different viewpoint or a different way of seeing something can really be transformative.
right, right.
And so it just kind of it's a type of reality testing.
Right. Right. I had somebody say something, and again, they'll never know the impact they had. And, it was at a concert, and this woman walked up and she goes, "You just look like so fun." She goes, "I just want to be around you." And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you." And I will never forget that. That was the other thing that I've learned is the power of a true compliment. I try now, if I see something in someone that I truly believe, I don't want to blow smoke up anybody's ass, and excuse me, I'm very foul-mouthed at times, but
It's nothing I haven't heard in jail. Don't worry.
okay, yeah, yeah, thank you. But I'm trying to notice this, with people, that if you see something, and I've seen people's faces light up, if you see something that you genuinely know, like, oh my gosh, they really have a beautiful smile, if you go up and just go, oh my God, you have a beautiful smile, you watch that smile light up, and it's kind of a gift you can give, but it's a gift that gives back to you too, because, and it has to be genuine. It can't be something that you're making up, because they'll know, instinctively they're going to know. But, the ability that we have to impact somebody's day, with so minimal, so little that it requires of us,
And Lisa, I've seen on YouTube so many accounts of near-death experience. It's a
Right.
subject I'm fascinated in. And at the end of the day, it's really what counts the most in human life, is being able to put that light in someone else's life. Even if it's a small thing, like opening the door or giving that compliment, the impact could just be so tremendous.
See, and talking to you, this is a gift for me, because I'm going, I need to go do that today too. I need to add that one in again today. I've kind of been losing some of that, Sometimes you need the reminder of what's the little things you can do, that are very easy and that cost you nothing,
Absolutely. I want to thank you so much for
Thanks.
sharing your wisdom. It's really been a pleasure speaking with you today. And I hope that this podcast will inspire people to always keep going and never give up.
Yeah, don't give up. It changes. It changes. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
Bye.